Sorry about that.
No worries. So, I did some checking up. Um, are we ready to roll?
Yep, we are live.
Fantastic. So we've got uh, on one side of the table, we've got an Enchantress Vega Taisei team versus Shovel and Shield, Ryu and Seijun. And it looks like the first picks have come out to be a Taisei versus Seijun match.
Ooh.
I also did some investigating. This is the last match in Pool A. It appears to be a match for honor and glory, because I believe both players are on the other side of the tiebreaker with the person in between. So, um, and I think they're both set to advance in their current positions, but
Good for them.
playing for honor, glory, and as many spectators out there are all good reasons to keep going.
Also fun. Taisei is real exciting, and Seijun is flat out adorable, so this should be an entertaining match through and through. Let me switch over to the TTS view.
I think you're only calling Seijun adorable because her hand is empty right now.
Well, yes. That'll change rapidly, and she will shortly become a fearsome monster, terrifying to behold, great and beautiful as the dawn, etc., etc. Um, wait, no, is it terrible as the dawn?
Something like that.
Something like that. Either way, Scary Fox. Taisei, however, is actually looking more terrifying than ever with a life total of 30. That'll get fixed before the game starts, I'm sure.
I would hope so.
Oof.
Not we'll have to let them know, but I think they'll find it.
Talk about your EX mode Taisei.
Yes, making a so if Taisei started with 30 life, what would EX Seijun be like?
Um, one guard for every one card.
And maybe you cannot. Maybe you have two reshuffles.
That's good too. I was just thinking literally double her ability. Your attack's a +1 guard for every card in your hand.
Yeah, that'd be pretty silly.
Yep. Alright, Taisei takes first. Seijun takes second. So let's see. Seijun. It looks like Seijun chose to go second. Oops. That is a mad maneuver.
Ah, the classic.
As I affectionately refer to it. The act of drawing before you remember to shuffle. But yeah, it looks like Seijun chose to go second, probably looking for a deeper mulligan to dig for those transformations. Taisei mulligan 4, probably, since Taisei's going first, probably looking for that Chaos Scissors to get a turn 1 Dust to Dust transformation. Let's see, I always mix these up. I believe that is Demon Hearts.
Yes, or might just be looking for that Ashen Claws for a turn one play because Seijun doesn't have a great answer to it.
That's true. With only 8 cards in hand, she'd have to Wild Swing Inari Guidance, I believe, is the only thing that she could do about it. Oh, or she could, of course, have an EX Dive or an EX Inari Guidance from hands.
That is true. But EX Dive as the opener, aka the Jazz Hands, is not something that you can reliably play against. Sometimes it just happens.
Yep. Ashlyn, aka Rascal Queen, correctly evaluating that Seijun's neutral threats from starting positions are just Dive and Inari Guidance. Seijun does not have anything else that'll hit at range 4. So I don't know much about Jace, but I know that Ashlyn, aka Rascal Queen, is one of the more reputed to be one of the more aggressive players in the meta. Favors characters like Taisei, Kuma, Vega, big damage, very unsafe characters. Let's see, boosts with Grave Ambitions, correct starting health. There we go. So this is a before close 3 boost, allowing Taisei to threaten Dust to Dust, Anathema Surge most notably, but also just about anything else that is, Evil Little Heart desires.
I mean, I find this interesting because you're trying to create a mix-up involving, I suppose, that you might have.
Oh,
that's interesting. You know what? I'm just gonna stop talking because.
Kitsune Wrath is in play.
But both ink spikes are down.
This is true. Now that said, she normally relies on landing ink. She normally relies on her character ability to let her land ink spike, providing her with additional defenses so that the attack will land more reliably. That is really not something you can rely on against Taisei, because his character ability lets him add 1 or 2 points of power on just about whatever he wants.
That is true.
Actually,
I find this
much more alarming for Taisei is the is Ink Splash, especially now that Kitsune Wrath is in play. Oh,
and there are the scissors.
there's Demon Blood. Yep, spending 3 life to transform a card from hand or deck. Almost always going to be deck in this case. Yep, there it is.
Dust to dust.
Demon Heart is in play. From now on, whenever Taisei spends life, he gains +1 armor for every point of life spent. That accumulates over time, but it goes away whenever a strike ends. Alright, Seijun now has her work cut out for her.
As I was saying before, I was surprised by the EX transform. I find playing the Grave Ambitions interesting because with all the extra guards Seijun has, you're basically counting on, is it Black Vault or not? Or you're going to eat a very potent sweep back on whatever you play.
This is true. Yeah, because it is a before close 3, you can count on Taisei ending up at range 1. Just because he doesn't have any other kind of movement shenanigans that he can pull off there that really matter. But he does have access to a range 1 spike, which is to say a card that hits at range 1 and beats focus and sweep, in this case by ignoring guard. It doesn't ignore armor, so you can still block if you wanted to. Alright, here we go.
Oof.
Reading Grasp into Anathema Surge, spending 2 life for extra power. Taisei will gain 4 life on hits. Yes.
2+2 from the Demon Blood transform. And gain another one of those incredibly key transform.
Yep, that is Edge of Death. Your attacks have, if you have 6 or less life, +1 power, or if you're in Exceed mode, +1 power and +1 speed. This is
very bold reading,
huge,
but paid out.
Yep. When Seijun is very vulnerable to reading in general because she tends to want to retain a lot of cards in hands. Until she has the transform on Yokai Vanishing, she can't really do much about it. Very good start for Taisei. Seijun is already considerably behind. She needs to blow him up in a hurry. Now, she could still do that. Kitsune Wrath lets her throw extra power onto EX attacks, so depending on what she draws, she might be able to just wipe him out before he even gets a 3rd transform or 1 gauge. She won't be so lucky if he's holding at least 1 block, however. At range 1, Seijun doesn't have anything that threatens block. What is it? 8 cards in hand now.
There's a lot of very scary EXs that could come out. I guess we'll find out.
Just 1 card?
Just a single card.
Alright. Still has Ink Spike live, as well as the other Grasp. Could also be something higher damage like Foxfire or Sweet. Could be Yokai Banishing. Wild Swing.
Interesting.
Oh.
Second Grasp. Ooh.
That is bad for Seijun. Taisei is going to trade up considerably. She pushes him back to range 2. Interesting. Seijun normally favors range 3, but it depends on her hand shape. So here she's telegraphing that she has, it's called Yokai Banishing. Or possibly just Cross.
That's a pretty brutal turn of events. It's a big chunk of damage. It is that all-important 5th gauge for Taisei, basically giving him another lease on life.
Yep, Taisei is now definitely, decidedly in the lead. For those not familiar with Taisei, his ability is that he starts at half-life, but when he would die by having his life reduced to 0, he instead will exceed. However, he must be able to afford the cost. So, getting his exceed cost is 5, reduced by 2 for each transformation, like every 7th Cross character. Which means it was reduced to 1, and now he has that 1 gauge. So he can now afford it, meaning he has basically an extra life. When he does exceed, he sets his life to, I believe it is 10? Which means right now he has an effective life total of 21. Alright, spinning for power and armor.
It is the Cross into an Assault.
Well, Taisei will take no damage because he has 3 armor. Seijun retreats, putting her at the edge of the board. Well, Seijun is cornered at range 2 against Taisei, who is ready to flip and has plenty of power still at his disposal.
I feel like if I were Taisei, I'd be moving to range 1 sooner rather than later, simply because Seijun's out of grasps now.
That's true, actually. That's a very good point. Let's see. She would still have access to Yokai Banishing, which I believe does beat Sweep at range 1. But if he can get in... Okay, that's plus 3 armor onto his next attack. So Seijun has a transformation on every one of her specials, which means she is not very good in boost wars. Taisei has 3 transformations, but 2 boosts. One of them is this boost, which is plus 3 armor, and it lets him spend 2 life as an after effect to bounce it after the strike. It's a very potent boost.
Especially because it can double dip to be up to 5 armor.
Correct.
Depending on the timing.
Yep, if he's faster than his opponents, it essentially can become 5 armor. However, if he is faster than his opponents, generally he's going to stun them. Not always, though. This is Seijun. She has extra guard for every 2 cards in her hand, and she's holding, what, 9? Okay, so maybe it won't stun her. Just depends what he plays.
I feel like the Seijun player here is a little paralyzed. They're either looking for a particular answer, or just feeling oppressed by the front side of Taisei. Adding plus 2 power and plus 2 armor onto an attack changes all of the numbers in a very unpleasant way.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, plus 2 speed. That's also a pretty important change. Tech makes sense.
Immediate and reasonable.
It's much easier to cover anyone's options when they don't have plus 2 speed in play. Seijun pretty heavily pressured here, excuse me. Oh, that looks like an EX attack coming up. And are we going to see an expenditure for plus 1 or plus 2 power?
I feel like this is an EX Yokai Banishing, and if that's a focus, this game is probably going to break right in half.
Let's see what we get. To me, it feels like Ding Splash. Whoa!
It was, well, I outread myself twice.
Interesting. So, it was the exact counterplay.
Proper moment, just to cut in, Taisei healed one on hit, which they should not have. Because they do not have that transform yet.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Right, so good catch.
But I definitely felt that was the. It's very interesting to me to see Taisei crossed out like that.
Mm-hmm. It was the answer to the focus. So.
Well, it would have still gotten kaborfed by EX Yokai.
Yes.
So, did Seijun spend any force on that?
She did not spend for extra power.
Okay. Well, I guess she was just as uncertain as we were.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly, that would have been a 5 power Ink Splash, and with 5 armor, that means Taisei would have actually traded with that. So he was covering the Ink Splash and also the spike. That said, Yokai Banishing is only 1 printed, so EX with plus 2 only hits 4. Taisei easily covers that, well, also evilly, but easily covers that with his armor, just by spending 1 life and having that plus 3 in play. So, not sure it would have been worth it to spend if it was Yokai.
It's, again, it just seems that Seijun has never been at a comfortable range. I really genuinely question what they're looking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what card is it that they are seeking to close this out? Or at least push Taisei to the next part of the game.
I was about to say, closing out isn't going to happen right away. We haven't seen a single copy of Nightmare Terrors drop, which means once Taisei does flip, he's still going to be able to stay alive for longer than anyone deserves.
I just realized, actually, playing Nightmare Terrors from this board state is completely safe.
He is before close 3 in play, so...
Oh, that's right.
Right. Alright, so we have plus 2 power, plus 2 armor, and before close 3, with an additional plus 1 power because of his transformation, Edge of Death. This is terrifying. So basically daring Seijun to block, because this could be a spike. If it is a spike, she has to play Assault, I believe? Or Dive.
Yes, assault would get them out of trouble. Um, it could also be threatening Black Vault. Uh, knowing that
That's true, there's a
Seijun
known
can't
Black Vault in
catch them
hand.
with anything but a speed 4 Inari guidance.
Speed
But
5
there's
Inari
a universe
guns.
here where I play EX Inari with +2 power, and I'm very happy.
I think that would be worth the risk, in all honesty. The Black Vault does feel like the likeliest threat here, because it only loses to exactly that. I think there's no other play that Seijun can make that actually beats it. That looks like a wild swing, which means this, let's see, it is the Black Vault, and of course, Seijun loses to it because nothing in the planet beats it. Taisei gains 3 life, which does not put him over 6, meaning he will hit for 7. Seijun drops to 11 life. Brutal. So this would be a pretty good time to play Chaos Scissors. Just saying.
I mean, seems good to me.
Yeah.
You have the gauge. It
Oop.
loses to yokai.
Yep. Okay, so this is probably going to be either Yokai or Ink Splash. Either way, it would be speed 7. So that's the big obvious threat. Yeah.
I mean, if I'm Taisei here, there's also a universe where I just block.
Sure, block or focus are both extremely safe. So is Nightmare Terrors. There it is.
Oh,
Yep. So that can push up to 3 spaces, which means there is no way Seijun will get out of range. Just a point of order, making sure that gets paid.
absolutely.
Yep. So just to draw 3 has 4 power. Taisei will take 2. Yep. Taisei will then hit for 6 minus 1 armor is 5, and then gain 5 life.
The Taisei healed 6. I don't think they calculated EX armor. I'll take it.
Yeah, sorry. I was already
No
typing.
worries.
Yeah. Seijun countered it correctly on their side. Okay, so
Wow.
alright.
This is Taisei. This is Taisei doing Taisei things.
Aggressively Taisei things. Hard key preps, I mean, he is controlling the board pretty handily. That is both copies of Yokai Banishing down, which means both Yokais and both spikes are dead. So, if Taisei throws a focus... Nope. Inari Guidance is still alive. Inari Guidance would dodge a lethal focus. Is this an EX? Sure is. Gonna spin for that. Oh,
Considering again.
second thoughts.
An exceed.
Interesting. Looking to
Not-
draw...
Not the worst idea.
I'm
They're-
guessing they're looking to draw into more EX attacks. Because they need
or
to start...
blocks.
That's fair. But yeah, they need to start drawing... they need to start outsiding Taisei. Like, they can't afford to lose strikes. One lost strike ends this game immediately.
Which is a good time to not have any guard anymore, because it stops mattering.
That's true. That's true. Taisei's turn. He can afford to take some time here. The question is... Yeah, I'm kind of wondering. Probably boosting a Black Bolt would be the play that, if he has it, I think he'd make. That's a prep, needs to discard.
That's an interesting prep. I really question the universe in which all of those cards aren't useful.
Probably just digging for the EX Action Clause. Taisei can basically afford to be laid back here. So Cube has not drawn for start of turn yet, but they're not in violation until they try to do something else. Whoop. Alright, we have a failed parry, revealing 00356, 1 clause and 1 surge. The remaining surge, I suppose.
Huh.
I'm guessing a parry focus happens. No, that's not safe. Yeah, CC. That makes sense.
And another discard will be needed. And
Oh,
the action clause goes.
drops the clause. Alright, I am mistaken about their purpose. I think Taisei just... I might be seeing things. Yeah. Just to be on the safe side.
Seems fair. Well, with that, Taisei doesn't have any blocks left. That's something.
True. And this time
Trying to look on
QB
the
did
bright
catch
side
that
here.
start. Yes. Excuse me one second.
Second parry. Oh dear. Oh, hit it this time. And we have light. And attack. And there's the last card. So we're gonna see a very... we've got Demon Heart, 3 armor come out, and we're gonna see an immediate shuffle with 12 cards left in deck, giving
I'm back.
Seijun very few turns to actually kill this Taisei twice.
Yeah, this could easily go to deck out. We still have a copy of Tears left, yes?
I believe so.
That's a lot of armor to punch through and an extra life, even before his Exceed extra life. If he chooses to use Tears that way, mind you. He could just save the Tears until after he Exceeds.
But the second cast Scissors is down, so that's something.
And that's something. Yeah, Jace was a little bit hasty on that start of turn draw. It is generally considered courteous to give your opponent an opportunity to check your discards um, right before you reshuffle for whatever reason. So it looks like they are going to, yeah, put that card back. Wait, isn't it? Wasn't that Kibi's turn? Or was that the end of Kibi's turn?
I believe it was the end of turn draw for boosting caused a reshuffle. Then we have a focus cancel for Meddlesome,
Yep.
which makes it...
Seems correct. So that will bring it back to Kibi's turn.
Mhm.
Start of turn draw.
Start turn draw.
Yeah. So that was a very effective use of Meddlesome to prevent the reading that would have been a guaranteed lethal. Mm-hmm.
It's true. There was no strike, so there will be no spamming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, reverted that life expenditure appropriately. So what lines does Seijun have left to win? Well, firstly, Taisei's hand is fully deducible. There's one known Anathema Surge, 5 cards that could be determined by checking the discard pile. So Seijun is probably playing something that is guaranteed to beat all of them. We have an EX with +2 power,
And
a response with +2 power and +2 armor.
so 5 armor total, and it's the other terrace.
Oh my gosh. That's game, right?
That is 7.
Yeah. Seijun, sorry, Taisei takes 0, and then Seijun takes 6 and dies.
No, it takes 6 minus 1.
No, 7 power minus 1 armor is 6. I counted the armor.
Okay.
GG. Alright, that is one win for Taisei.
That is definitely, as we said, Taisei doing Taisei things. It's worth noting that a lot of people think Taisei's front side is a lot stronger than his Exceed side.
Mm-hmm.
The primary reason being having that extra life, and we saw just there just how oppressive it can be if Taisei gets ahead.
Oh, yes.
But we also saw both Nightmare Terrors land, and that was devastating.
Indeed. On front side, no less. That is a Taisei that attained an early lead and never lost it.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so let's see. Enchantress and Vega against Ryu, Seijun, Shovel, and Shield. Personally, I feel like we see Ryu or Shovel and Shield come out. I think they can both handle Enchantress and Vega. And then on Ashton's side, I would probably expect the Enchantress to come out instead of the Vega. I don't know, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think this is a comfort thing. At this point, if I were the Seijun player, I would probably be pretty tilted right now. So I would, even putting matchup aside, I would just reach for the character I feel best about and put them on the table. And that might be Seijun again.
Mm-hmm. It very well might.
However, looking at the matchup again, yeah, I would not want to play Seijun into either Enchantress or Vega. So
I would be fine with Seijun into Vega, I think. Oh, looks like players have made their decision already. Let me switch back.
we've got Ryu into Enchantress looks like the answer.
Oh boy.
My only concern is even Seijun guard can be broken by that big power spike that Vega can produce.
That's true. My thoughts was more along the lines of she can pretty consistently outspeed him, and while she does struggle to keep up with him, if she gets an Art Guidance in play, she just hugs the center 3 spaces, and he'll never be out of reach.
she does have to come to him to make his attacks work, to cash out, and then he either has to spend cards and resources moving back, or stand and fight without his UA, and neither of them are pretty great. So it's a fair point.
Why is Enchantress's name so long? Good enough. Alright. Yeah, Hadouken is interesting. Critical Hadouken only... I've actually had this conversation with someone before, I think, but Critical Hadouken pretty much only loses to Fire Wave. And Fire Wave is not reusable. Actually, Enchantress doesn't have any spammable attacks.
I mean, it can trade with Flying Charge. It can get poked out on offense by Homing Orb. It does beat Magic Shot cleanly, which is non-trivial.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, if depending on the board state, if Enchantress is flying charging into Ryu, that may just be setting up for a donkey kick or worse.
Yeah, I think in general, the problem here is Enchantress just struggles to deal with Ryu's stats. Like, Enchantress doesn't have much in the way of stats except for range. She relies on mobility and resource management to control everybody. And Ryu is very, very resource efficient. So, oh boy.
The other card I want to call out in this matchup as being important is Ryu's Tatsu, which has 4 guard on it.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but that will cover homing or magic shot, I believe. And wow, and flying charge, and arguably fire wave, although it really depends.
Depending on spacing.
Yeah, it's slower than fire wave. So, but yeah, that that just doesn't lose to anything she wants to throw. All right, we have a light boost in play. Boost warring into Ryu is a dangerous proposition. Also, giving up a sweep when at close range, it's actually fairly reliable, especially since Ryu just dropped across. Pretty surprised. I'm trying to think of what that telegraphs. She doesn't have any... Well, I guess Flying Charge is her close range option that really, really benefits from +2 speed.
That would basically leave for free in its board state. For Advance 4 would put her
almost
right
at the
where
wall.
She wants to be.
Yep. And it only loses to Grasp, and if it does get hit by Grasp, she can still trade up against it.
It is worth noting also, because of the weird way that Enchantress's hands work, it's harder for her to hold on to tech, specifically from dive, which makes Ryu's Way of the Warriors that much scarier. So we're going to see...
The Tatsu, the Flying Charge. Yeah, she can't get out of reach, and she can't stun it. There you go. So she's...
This makes me look really good as a commentator, I have to say that. Thanks.
Thank you to the players. Yeah, so she spends nothing, keeping that hand, moving close to the wall. Ryu advances, hits for 5, trading up. It was Ryu's initiative. He does not gain advantage, and that makes it Enchantress's turn. Yeah. Well, she wanted to get to range, so that strongly implies a magic shot in hand, since she would want to have an option to beat the Hadouken.
The other thing I'm thinking, it's going to be a very important card in this matchup, because of them wrestling over this card Hadouken, is the fact that when Flying Charge is down means when Mind Control is down.
Oh, that's a very good point. Yeah. So Mind Control is a boost on Enchantress that says spend up to 3 force. The opponent must reveal that many cards from their hand. Choose one of the revealed cards and discard it. It's kind of a variation on parry, where you don't have full control, but you'll always discard something. What is this? Oh, sorry, this is Rebirth.
Yes.
Okay, so Rebirth is it's kind of like a change cards action. Oh, thank you for the follow, Maximus Stanley. But yeah, so put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck in any order, then draw that many cards plus 1. So it basically lets her go, alright, these are cards that I don't want to discard, but I don't need right now. And change out her hand for a new one. In this case, she did change her entire hand, I believe. Ryu Preps, sticking to range 2. This is reasonable. Donkey Kick is a big threat, and he has 1 gauge, so you can threaten a critical Shoryuken. Ground Break, forcing Ryu to either corner himself, back up, or take 5 damage. The opponent will almost always choose to move 2 spaces with this. Alright, he corners himself.
He could also always just Ryu action back to the other side.
Yes, but it buys Enchantress a little bit of time, which could be very important.
It reflects a certain lack of confidence in what those 3 cards are.
Mm-hmm. Well, uh-oh.
You've got a Shoryuken boost into a strike.
Oh, we are striking from hand here. Perhaps this is a cross? Into the assault. Nice! Alright. Enchantress will pop that assault.
I would have respected that cross with that board state. Mm-hmm. And the Shoryuken would have been a great interrupt against it coming the other way. So it was a daring play, but maybe it was threatening some other kind of mix-up, but not covering the cross there is rough.
It's costly. Enchantress now has more options at her disposal. She's at range 4. She's probably still afraid of Hadouken, but she could always choose to move with her hands, perhaps boost, depending on what she has available. Either way, if she empties out that hand successfully, she will then reload to 6, which is strongly desirable. She retreats 2 spaces, putting her at the maximum range of Fire Wave and also Hadouken.
Which basically, I would say, betrays that last card as Fire Wave, which would trade up very nicely against Hadouken.
It's a hefty telegraph. It could also be a block, potentially, although if it was a block, I think we would have seen a parry come out already. Excuse me.
Got a Ryu action.
Yep. Striking from hands. Yeah, that heavily telegraphs Fire Wave. Do we see the Hadouken? No, I guess not. Alright, Fire Wave in a block. She needs to spend a force, which will be from Gauge.
Okay.
Yep, Ryu spends a force to take no damage, and is pushed to 2 Fire Waves after effect. At the end of the strike, should I say during cleanup, Enchantress, because she has no cards in hands, reloads to 6. There is the text of Fire Wave, for those not familiar. Man, I love this art.
It is fantastic. So now that Fire Wave is gone, that Hadouken feels a lot better.
Well, one Fire Wave is gone. There's another one, right?
It's true.
We've only dropped 1 copy.
Got a Ryu action forward.
Yep. So Ryu is projecting confidence that he'll be able to respond with a critical Hadouken, but the fact that he didn't just then makes me suspect that he just didn't have it.
Backstep?
Buying herself some time. If either player strikes at range 6, Fire Wave is the smart play on Enchantress' side, because nothing else hits. Although she could potentially initiate with a homing orb, depending on exact spacing and hand size. Homing orb is such shenanigans. Alright, so if Ryu doesn't have a Hadouken, he should probably be reluctant to keep moving forward. Might as well sit back and prep, since she doesn't have anything to threaten at range 7.
Again, this is it's a safe board state for both players, and I'm really trying to figure out who it lends the advantage to. Probably Ryu.
I think Ryu has a slight advantage. Yeah, as soon as he steps back in range, or he could just be waiting to draw a parry to try to get that other Fire Wave out. But, you know, it very much depends. Enchantress doesn't have much control over her hand shape.
My dream play right now, if I'm Ryu, would be to have 3 cards of those 6 cards in hand, and those cards would be 1-inch punch, Metsu Hadoken, and Hadoken.
Hmm. That's a bit frightening. Alright, we have a change cards action. Ditching a couple of normals, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. Digging for more useful cards, such as, in particular, Flying Charge for Mind Control, Block for Gauge, Fire Wave for a defense against an upcoming Hadoken. Could also be waiting to pick up Ground Break. Re-weighing his options. So I'm assuming that what your thought process with that list was to land a Hadoken and then to quick step in and play Metsu Hadoken.
Honestly, from this board state at range 7, I was going to say quick step in, boost Way of the Warrior, and stare at my opponent menacingly.
That is absolutely not the line of play I was expecting. I thought it was going to be a Ryu action forward, land a Hadoken in the next strike, because you don't even have to critical it if you're at range 6. Oh! What is this? This is a move or a change cards.
Move 4.
Alright, jumping right over that contested range into range 3, where a whole lot more threats are alive on both sides. This could potentially be awkward for Enchantress if she was trying to sculpt a mid to long range hand.
It's interesting because I believe both assaults are down for Enchantress. So this makes a spike feel pretty good.
Both assaults are down. Oh, light. Alright, so this telegraphs a dive, which beats everything except crit Hadoken. Ryu's forward.
Action. Also avoids the homing orb.
Oh, true. And the dive. Alright, so what Enchantress needs to play if she has it is Donkey Kick. Unfortunately, that's not in her kit. So... Oh, here we go.
There's a lot of characters who would love to have Donkey Kick in their portfolio.
It's pretty good. Oh, she dropped a block on that. I'm surprised. Chooses to discard with the remaining effect of Dark Strafe, and then at the end of her turn, reloads to 6. See, I personally probably would have kept that block, but I suppose with the light in play, she just wants to dig into those projectiles. In my opinion, most Enchantress games are decided in large part by how quickly she manages to exceed. I think she is one of those characters that wants to exceed every game she can. Not like Ryu, whose exceed is very much a utility play. Oh boy. So speaking of... Way of the Warrior staring the opponent down. Ryu needs to draw for end of turn?
I believe so. They might be trying to figure that out.
Uh-oh.
Or the server might have gone down.
Or that.
+2 power, +2 speed, -1 server.
That could be an issue. Alright, well, I've moved back to the setup screen for now. I'm going to check in with them on our status. Alright, I believe that server went down outright. I'm going to turn the music up while we wait for our competitors to get things sorted. Okay, server should be back up.
I'm on my way.
Yeah, it looks like the reload didn't restore the game state up to the current time.
That's unfortunate.
Where are we at? Looks like Enchantress had played the Fire Wave, hitting the block, spinning the cross from gauge, and pushing.
This was several turns ago.
Yep.
Several turns ago.
Yep. They're hitting up Taxi for a call, but they are probably just going to restart. Alright, looks like we are restarting. Game 2, take 2. Alright, Ryu is forward.
Move forward, light boost. It's like a brand new game.
Yep.
Wait, it's a brand new old game.
Completely
Do some of
different.
this before?
Completely different.
Another reunion.
Mm-hmm.
We'll
Actually, I think last
very
game.
defensive of their resources.
Yeah, last game Ryu moved into range 1, so it is actually different. But yes, pretty conservative Ryu play. Moving to range 2 with light in play feels pretty unsafe, but just as before, we have that Tatsu threat, meaning Ryu can cover the whole board if Enchantress doesn't stun him.
It'll be interesting to see if the echo of that sits in the Enchantress's player's head. You can be conditioned by getting burned once before.
It's true. Yeah, as much as it would be nice to pretend that it's a complete restart, it's basically, second game and a half. the knowledge of that second game is in the players' heads, and it can't be helped. That said, it's not an advantage or disadvantage to either player. It just means there's that much more of the mind game there.
So that was a boost of Fire Wave, and then
Draw 2 cards and strike. 2
and then
cards,
striking.
I believe.
Is this to make a... I mean, it telegraphs the flying charge again.
True, but this could very easily be a spike.
It definitely could be, and that could be, in fact, the setup.
Yeah, Speed 5 Spike beats everything here except for Cross, which would, of course, force Ryu to back up to range 5, which is not bad for Enchantress. Uh-oh. What do we got?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, this looks familiar. Flying Charge into Tatsu, except this time it's EX Tatsu.
Wow.
For bonus points, I guess. So Enchantress has to spend 1, and this time she will go all the way to the wall, dealing 3 damage after armor.
And then get Hurricane kicked for 6.
Correct. Enchantress initiated. It is now Ryu's turn. He's at range 2. In general, I would say that that exchange favored Ryu pretty significantly. If she's holding Dark Strafe, she can get out of this just fine. But if not, it'll be pretty awkward. Alright. Boosting Donkey Kick, adding its gauge. That surprises me. I would expect Donkey Kick to be used as a strike here, because there's really not much Enchantress can do to beat it.
I mean, maybe they just want to threaten that Metsu and that Shinryuken faster? But I definitely also value Donkey Kick as an attack here. Another 6 damage onto Enchantress's face would be very potent.
Mm-hmm. And advantage, letting him continue that pressure. Actually, you know, I just realized, Ryu feels like Kin in this matchup, because he's always going to be closing in and putting more pressure on Enchantress.
Could he be setting up for an early Exceed?
That would be shocking to me. It would make some amount of sense, though. It prevents Enchantress from running him out of resources basically ever. No, I think it's more entertaining to set up for an early Metsu Hadoken. But of course, that's just what I find interesting and amusing. Enchantress strikes. So obviously Shoryu is a threat. Crit Shoryu is a threat here, but she could be baiting it with any number of slow attacks. Spiral Orb would actually let her ditch her hands, which is always useful since she gets to reload if she does so. Could be the other Flying Charge, which would be surprising, but then again, Enchantress doesn't really have much control over her hand shape until she exceeds. So she just has to play out whatever hand she's given.
Mm-hmm.
It is focus.
Oh!
Well, that is unsuccessful bait. Ryu calls a slow attack, lands a spike. Painful.
Shocking.
Yep. Defensive spike doesn't happen often, but when it works, it hurts. Alright, it is now Ryu's turn. Still at range 2, so with a pretty hefty advantage. Looks like he's considering the Ryu action. Decides to prepare instead. Alright, Enchantress plays Dark Strafe. Tossing a focus and a magic shot. That is both foci down, by the way. Moves to range 5 instead of 6. Interestingly enough, that puts her squarely in range of Metsu Hadoken. However, it means that if she drew a homing orb, she can stuff it.
I mean, I suppose in consecutive turns as well. If Ryu moves, then she can expend a card and
move
in
back
some way and try to keep pace.
Uh-oh. Danger.
Oh boy.
So if this is EX Metsu Hadoken, it is unbeatable. If it is EX Hadoken, then she could trade with it. Potentially. Or stun it with oh, there it is.
It is My goodness.
Well, at least she had the block. But there you go,
That-
early Metsu Hadoken. Unfortunately, blocks on Enchantress are uniquely interesting. She could actually ditch her entire hand if she wanted to. She chooses not to, but she has a lot of control over her hand shape here. So,
I,
yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that decision. Even catching for 8 would have been. I mean, suppose it puts your opponent to 11, and that's pretty good.
I mean, I'd be very happy to land that if she didn't have the block.
I don't know. Part of me would want to boost one copy and just hit with the other.
That's fair. Takes time though. Always dangerous. Enchantress boosts fierce. Okay. Either confident in that hand shape or wants us to believe that she is. Ryu's turn. He's at range 3. I think we'll probably see a Ryu action here, either backwards to threaten Hadoken or forward to threaten, any number of things. Oh, we have an overhead. And critical. Well, that pretty heavily telegraphs the Hadoken. Which in turn can be...
Will still trade with it.
Firewave trades with it. Sweep trades up pretty massively. Even Spike trades with it, actually. If Enchantress has anything with 4 guard, it threatens to trade with Hadoken. Of course, this could just be the other Spike or a dive to beat all of those things.
A dive here would be. Well,
Okay, no, it was the Hadoken. Oh, she had both Firewave and Spiral Orb.
Chose to play the Spiral Orb, which is interesting because it doesn't reposition.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I would have taken the movement from Firewave. I guess if she believes it's Hadoken, putting Ryu at range 5 actually doesn't do a whole bunch of good.
Yeah, it would probably be bad for her, actually. Yeah, she chooses not to draw or discard anything, and then reloads at Drain Cleanup. Alright, so Ryu chooses to recur Hadoken. It is now Enchantress's turn. She has a full hand, but Ryu's top deck is Hadoken, which is pretty hard to deal with. Even trading up against it is only so good because she's 6 life behind. Enchantress is still 1 gauge away from being able to exceed.
It's a very contemplative moment. She's in the middle of her deck.
Yeah.
Do you think she's got to flip before she can really start turning the tables here, or this is one of those matches where it's just a question of waiting out? And we see another rebirth boost. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Trying to fix a hand shape that may be somewhat awkward. Deciding what it is that she wants to get rid of. The answer is everything. Deciding that order carefully, though, which does matter.
Mm-hmm. It signifies that they believe they intend to go deep or to the bottom of their deck.
Mm-hmm. It's always good to be careful in these situations. Alright, so Ryu moves forward to range 2, draws that Hadoken. This basically telegraphs that he's going to be setting up a defensive and threatening a critical Shoryuken or a donkey kick or something like that. That's like the standard Ryu line here.
Are both fire waves down? That is a question to me.
Yes, she very early on boosted one to draw 2 cards and strike. And then we just saw one hit the discards, pay for Spiral Orb.
Okay. But one flying charge might be live. So I was just, again, contemplating that mind control to take care of the Hadoken problem.
True. Yeah, if she had boosted mind control here, she could easily get rid of it. She boosted light instead, which will, still allow her to threaten any number of options. Let's see, Ryu's out both ways of the warrior. So his usual capacity to just automatically win any boost war that goes on long enough is diminished. Well, not any boost war, but boost war against characters that don't have a lot of stat boosts. Alright, he Ryu's forward to range 1. This makes sense. She could still have a flying charge, but with only well, now 4 cards left in hand. Her ability to get out of dodge is limited. She moves to range 3, so, yep, keeping Spike Dive alive. Whoop. Don't mind that, viewers. Actually,
Sorry about that.
no worries. Actually, I think both her spikes might be down. We have a parry, calling Shattering Screen. 3, 4, 5, 7. That's a bunch of normals, but she does have Spike and Dive.
It's a pretty potent mix-up.
Mm-hmm. All right. Looks like she's gonna ditch it. Wait, hold on.
Let's heat one of those. Also,
Yeah, that was an illegal move.
yes. Well, we are at least in a good position to remedy the board state. And if they want to move to that position, they do have that assault in hand.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the deck order cannot be remedied because that shuffle means the bottom of the deck is no longer preserved. So we have a CC instead. For those not familiar, in previous versions, or should I say previous editions of the rulebook, it was legal to take the move action and spend any number of force, and then choose your direction and move that direction. So you could stand at the edge of the arena, spend 7 force to retreat, and just back into the wall. This is no longer a thing. The move action now is functionally you choose a destination space, then you spend the appropriate amount of force to move there, which is usually 1 per space. Unless something reduces your force costs, or if your opponent's in between you in that space, then you have to spin and move over them and all that.
Enchantress is one of the characters who specifically made this a factor.
Yes. During testing, it was discovered that under the old rules, Enchantress was pretty hilarious because you could just stand at the wall, ditch her hand to retreat, not moving at all, and get a fresh reload that way. So without that available, she has to be more careful with how she manages her hands.
It's also reaching an interesting point where Ryu might be able to deduce what these 9 cards are and make a play that is unanswerable.
Mm-hmm. No? Oh my god. It looks like we have a retreat 3. Let's value those 2 cards. With light in play, let's see. Threatening Magic Shot most strongly. We know both fire waves are down, and it's not going to be a homing orb with only 2 cards in hand. Magic Shot would actually be very valuable here. Beats everything Ryu can do. Oh, okay. Decided to boost instead. Is going to trigger the reshuffle. Oh boy. Alright, that leaves these 5 cards fully deducible, so Ashton is revealing them as a courtesy. To save the trouble kind of cards.
This feels like if there is a focus in hand, where you can really make this hurt.
Yes. This could easily be, yeah. Reading Assault or Dive into whatever he wants. Looks like he's actually just going to Critical Strike, though. Spinning the Ultra to Critical, that's kind of interesting.
Well, nothing can get out of range.
That's true.
Even if the dive will be outsped. The
The assault stays in range, so it's a question of block or trade with Shattering Scream.
which would spend that gauge. I guess,
which is pretty
given
important.
that she's already reshuffled, that's less of a priority.
I would say keeping that gauge is really important, because she now threatens to actually deck out. Like, Enchantress is pretty reliant on the fact that her Exceed gives her a free shuffle, to not just die due to running through her deck too quickly. At least that's my opinion. Is going to choose to trade. All right, spins that gauge. So she'll take 4 and then hit back for 6. Ryu needs to decide if he wants to recur his Hadouken. Yep, he does so. Alright, so as I mentioned before, this is not especially good for Enchantress because, you know, three more trades like that and she will die before she gets the kill on Ryu. Ryu can actually afford to kind of just sit here and let things happen. It is Enchantress's turn next, so what do you think is the play here?
Part of me wants to CC3 and hold that block, since right now getting red for that block is not the end of the world. You could parry that Hadouken.
Not yet. Not yet, you can't.
Oh, that's right, it's still on the top of the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Crossing in feels terrible.
I would agree with that.
Even crossing to range 3 is, you can't really do an effective mix-up, and crossing to range 2 is basically asking to get kicked in the face.
I think I would agree with the CC. Yeah. Uh-oh. Opponent disconnected? No. Seems technical difficulty, so I'm going to switch back to the matchup screen. Okay. Looks like they're back. I believe we just saw a prepare action from Enchantress.
Huh.
That is pretty rare. Doesn't want to get rid of those cards. Makes a decent amount of sense to me. It would either be a prepare or a CC. Now, it's pretty obvious Ryu doesn't have reading or is just trying to mess with Enchantress's head, because if he had it, he would have probably used it last turn. We have the critical Hadouken. It's essentially face up. Probably going to respond with the block here. Oh no, Fire Wave. Okay.
We're into it.
Trading evenly. So taking 4 and dealing 4. Ryu will end up getting pushed, but he decides his after effect first. The push happens either way though, so. Yep, choosing to keep that. Alright. It is now Enchantress's turn. If that's a strike, that is almost certainly the block. Or potentially another Fire Wave, just to make more distance. Block would build a 3rd gauge, which lets Enchantress threaten a Rapid Beam. I believe
pretty hard to land Rapid Beam against Ryu.
I mean, if he doesn't see it coming.
It's true, but we know that Hadoken exists, and he can very easily not be at range 7 or 8.
Oh, it looks like she decided instead to prepare.
It's very strange.
Yeah, this is quite a game. So if Ryu moves, he will draw the Hadoken, allowing her to parry it with the block that we know is in her hands. Puts him in an interesting position. I think if he had lightning reflexes, this would be the time to play it. Oh, decides to run in. Now both Tatsus are down. One Hadoken is definitely known to be in hands. He might have another one. It's impossible to tell, really.
I mean, the
Defend.
interesting.
Okay.
Maybe just hoping to trade up with that dive.
Mm-hmm. That would make a deal of sense. Finding some way to deal with the Hadoken loop is a big part of counter pressure in any Ryu matchup. Like, Ryu, since he can repeat it, and he's generally likely to land it if he wants to because of the critical effect giving it +2 speed, it's very important that you have some sort of plan in mind if he starts to run that line. Alright, he preps. Reading is now being threatened.
Oh, it's fascinating. Ryu only 15 cards into his deck.
Okay,
Ooh.
Enchantress ditches, normals. If I remember correctly, that last card is dive.
Mm-hmm. Threatening a very potent critical attack.
Yes. So critical attack is hit the opponent must draw or discard cards till the same number in hand as you. +1 power for every card they draw this way. The discard, you don't get extra power, but you're of course just making them discard cards. If she lands a dive here, he will ditch his entire hands, and she will get to reload because it's the last card in her hands. This is a very high value threat.
I mean, it's also huge risk. If Ryu has his own dive, he can simply play it.
And she would essentially be forced to wild swing. So I think critical dive is probably the ideal Ryu play.
I would definitely agree. The question is, what are those 6 cards? There's a lot of decision space that's possibly left here. We know Metsudoken doesn't exist.
Ooh, he could have an EX. I think he could have an EX Hadoken. I think we've one copy that's known in hand, but I don't think the other is accounted for. Uh-oh.
Got a reading? Oh!
I think it's a lightning reflex. Oh, no, it's a move action. Never mind.
Move it. Oof.
Range 1, where the dive threat is dead. Puts Enchantress in an extremely awkward position, actually. So she could do a Hail Mary Wild Swing, or she could take a move action. But she can't move just one with that card in her hand, because Ryu's in her face. She would have to actually lose gauge in order to move effectively, which is bad. But at this point, she's left with little choice. She probably needs to kill him before she even thinks about exceeding. Prepare. Also find it curious that Ryu dropped that reading instead of a different card, if we are correct about what is known to be in Enchantress's hand.
It surprised me, to be sure. Because anytime you can force your opponent to play something, it's pretty good.
Uh-oh.
You get EX.
EX at range 1. What is this? He's not especially afraid of her critical attack effect, which makes sense, because he can't give her extra power with it, really, because she doesn't have more cards than him. So at the worst, he's just going to discard a card, or maybe all 3 cards. EX Donkey, I believe Donkey Kick is not available, because he key charged one.
One Donkey was spent. It might just be EX Grasp.
Or EX Sweet, something like that. Oh!
1 inch will land.
And hit for 6, which is almost lethal. Yep, winning that speed tie against the dive.
Woo.
Brutal. drops her to 1
not
life.
criticaling it, making it to sort of hide what it could have been.
Very
Realizing
sensible.
correctly that the critical effect probably did matter.
Interesting
Against
that
that stat line.
Enchantress responded from hands. I wonder if the sweep was available. Oh, what is this? Move action? Yep, moving to range 1, reloading. Enchantress really needs to draw into some EX attacks here.
Wonder if we're going to see a Ryu hop or...
I kind of expect a defensive play here. It'll take him forever to get back into range for Hadouken. Oh, no, a prep.
I think holding the Hadouken as a threat from Enchantress fleeing to close the game out is still worth holding on to.
That's fair.
She's at 1 life.
That's fair. Yeah, Hadouken is all but guaranteed to kill her if she tries to run away.
All in all, that play sort of completed the long, suffocating sort of progression this game has taken on Enchantress not quite being able to hit that zenith of power.
Mm-hmm. So she won't run away because of the threat of Hadouken. She has to stay close. She could try to boost if she has any stat boosts. She could actually end up just preparing again, trying to maintain as many options as possible, and especially to draw into EX tracks.
The real question is she's got to get through 2 strikes to get that extra reshuffle in 11 cards with her deck and the 6 in her hand. So
Whew.
the pressure is on to make it to that exceed mode. Or
just kill him. Yeah. I mean, I think just killing him is the only real option. At 11 life, like, well, maybe I'm speaking too soon. Like, she's fairly low damage as a character. All right, ground break, forcing him to advance 2 or take 5 damage. He will probably take the advance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's really no reason to take the damage here.
Are both Shoryukens down?
I believe so. I could be mistaken.
Alright, so that takes away overhead as well as a method of closing the game.
Wait, actually... No, I'm not so sure. I might be mixing up the games.
Got lightning reflexes to range 4 and
that's
EX
critical.
Critical Hadouken.
Yep, that's it. Alright, she needs to block or she's dead. Matt, she can invalidate that.
Oh, that's true. She might be able to dig really deep here to... Well, that's their choice to make.
Yep, she should have spent a force, but she essentially conceded. So it is now 1-1 in the set. Oh, one of the spectators clarifies there were no blocks left, so it was definitely game.
Ah, noted.
All right. Okay, so let me update the screen.
So to take a look back at the matchup chart, you've got now Ryu has a win and... Yes. Oh, they conveniently did it for us. So you have Shovel and Shield Knight and Seijun versus Enchantress and Vega.
Yes. All right. That was good Enchantress play. Like I would be comfortable playing Enchantress again if I was Ashen.
Especially into... I think playing Enchantress into Shovel and Shield can be very difficult because they can warp the board in some really interesting ways, as well as negate several of her attacks once exceeded.
Mm-hmm. I think Shovel and Shield have that capability against virtually everybody. I would rather play them. I'd rather play Enchantress into them than Vega because of the ability to threaten multiple positions, and that Vega's reliance on hitting in melee, even if he doesn't start in melee, means Shield Boomerang is just such an unbelievably good defensive tool.
Mm-hmm. As well as Buckler Blow, when properly positioned.
Yes, that's the other one.
even the most dangerous of Vega strikes tend to cap out at speed 6.
Mm-hmm. At least until he exceeds. And notably, Pounce does have the defenses to tank through it.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, you're relying on making the call correctly.
And
oh, we do have Vega into Shovel and Shields. All right. This will be interesting.
it is worth noting that what's the word? Shovel and Shield do their mid-strike mobility is high, but their turn-by-turn mobility is only mediocre and usually costs them a good deal of resources.
I wouldn't agree it's mediocre. I would agree it's costly. They have quick step and variations on it, right? Like they have a boost suite, which
right,
is
but those are the very valuable specials that then make the rest of it work.
right. I agree with this. Full defense is essentially dead in this matchup, but Shield Gong is pretty good.
I think Inseparable could really be devastating in this matchup as well.
I would agree with that. The extra defense is pretty huge. Alright, it looks like Vega is taking first.
Yeah, play Inseparable, and then beta Vega attack and play Charge Slash into it. Beats a lot.
Whew. Vega's also free to just ignore it, though. Ignoring the bait and sticking to the wall if Shovel is otherwise out of range lets him essentially diffuse those boosts and come back on the next turn. A lot of this comes down to mind games, as is true of most Shovel and Shields fights. Their kit has a number of little ways they can catch you out with different tricks and maneuvers. And Vega has a lot of damage and a lot of mobility. And I would say that's about it, although I'm not really a Vega player. Mask, alright. 1 power, 1 armor, and can be sustained by spinning a force.
A quick and potent start.
Helps Vega hit important breakpoints of both offense and defense.
And also negates one of the nearly negates one of the cheekier Shield Knight openings, which is turn 1 Discovery.
Oh, that's true. Yep. Discovery is a speed 6 opener, which deals only 1 damage, so now it would deal none, meaning it is no longer safe as part of the opening mix-up. Shovel and Shield traditionally strike on the first turn, and this is probably no exception, but it's worth noting Vega has an above crew opener, Rolling Crystal Flash. So there is no option that Shovel and Shield can play that is actually completely safe. Assaults can trade down against defensive options. Discovery doesn't do any damage. Dive gets stuffed by Rolling Crystal Flash, and Shovel Bounce. What are its
Would
stats?
now get poked out.
Yep. Looks like they're just diving in, and Vega just retreats. So Shovel and Shield come forward, either 3 or 4 spaces. Due to Shield Knight's ability, they can choose whether they want to advance 3 as normal or an extra space, choosing only to advance 3. Vega deciding whether or not to sustain that boost. So that cross was actually guaranteed to function, because the only thing that would have hit it would have been Discovery, and that would have done no damage.
Right. Would have lost to EX Discovery.
True. True. Which is speed 7, power 2. It's pretty hefty cost for not a lot of reward.
Well, I mean, I could see a universe in which you say, that's EX Dive, I'm safe, and lose to EX Discovery, but again, it's not a line of play you can play about.
That's true. That would be pretty funny, though. And yes, so Vega initiating from the corner, so if that's a special, or, well, it's not an ultra, if that's a special, it has plus 3 power, as well as the plus 1 armor. If it's a normal, it has just plus 2 power, or sorry, plus 1 power and plus 1 armor. Well, without Shield Knight to back him up, Shovel Knight is looking a little bit exposed here.
I mean, Pounce seems like a pretty safe option. Oh, it's just
Oh,
an
it's
assault.
just assault. Oh, and here's the cross out on defense,
Wow.
shifting the board back to a more familiar position. That's pretty funny. Unfortunately for Vega, this kind of resource expenditure isn't really sustainable. Yeah, gonna let that
if I'm
drop.
Shovel and Shield, I feel great about this sequence.
Yes, this was definitely better for Shovel and Shield than Vega because it cost him the extra force to sustain Mask, and Mask ended up dropping at the end of it. Alright, we have a strike from Shovel and Shields. Usual mix-up applies. This time it is Discovery, which will beat the Rolling Crystal Flash at speed 5. That is pretty rough for Vega. That said, it only does 1 damage. However, 1 Rolling Crystal Flash is down. That is an important mix-up card because it gives him extra speed the farther away he is. And it can hit ranges 1 to 6, which is pretty ridiculous.
Close 5 is a very large number, matched only by some Ultras and Season 1 cards.
Indeed. Also Kami. Gyro Drive Smasher is a silly card. Oh, that is an Ultra. Withdrawn. Alright, Vega preps, Shovel and Shield. Shovel summons Shield to his side. Oh, hey, there's another Advance 8 then Close 1.
Fair enough. I mean, that is Vega's shtick, basically.
He is
But it's not a close. I'll stand on that.
That's true. He's a spring-loaded boy.
So this is another interesting board state where I'm not sure how happy I am if I'm Vega.
I'm definitely more comfortable here than I was a minute ago. Because if that's not... What? Dive or... Oh, I was expecting a response with Pounce, actually. But it's possible Vega just didn't have it. Yeah, so like Pounce from here is a range 1 to 4, speed 2, power 7 attack with Sweeps Text. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what? Yeah, that was no... Yeah. Alright. Sorry. Okay, that said, Shield Boomerang is now being threatened, and Vega is squarely in range, which is really awkward. He also dropped a dive, which is one of the few answers to Shield Boomerang. We'll see soon how cautious versus how risky Shovel Knight wants to play this.
And that is one block down. There's also one other way of removing Shield Boomerang from
that is true.
Being a threat.
That is true.
This is a complicated situation because if it's not Shield Boomerang, Vega can cash out for quite a lot because his specials can break guard on several things.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with a critical behind them.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that now. Vega's preferred spacing is range probably 4, I think. 3 to 4 while he's standing at the edge. So Shovel Knight's a bit uncomfortably close, but Vega still has a decent amount of power on his side. But he doesn't have his resources, though. And Shovel and Shield are looking pretty good on the economic front right now. Vega preps again.
Probably reloading, possibly looking for a claw or some other answer.
Mm-hmm. So Shield Boomerang, the threat of it is looming large over Vega's head. But Shield and Shovel, like, there's no guarantee that they drew it, or that they will draw it while it's relevant. And even if they do, they can actually just hold it and try to make the opponent play in fear of it. So the question is whether or not Vega will fall into that. Whereas if they slam it too early and Vega does respect it, the effort can be wasted. They are keeping that threat live, though, so it looks like they're willing to play on the defense, or be on the defensive, essentially, because they currently have an advantage. Vega boosts the lights. Gets techs. Well, that's tech down. And
Interesting use attack. Usually you save that for claw.
Yep, that is both dives gone. So claw and any other lights that Vega happens to play are now pretty assured. Yeah, there's the claw.
And there's the claw.
It won't get teched. It could still get negated by a Shield Boomerang, but that's not the worst thing in the world. Oh my. Charge up. +2 power, +2 guard. Cost of force. End turn. There it
And
is.
attack
Good
card back.
stacks. Yep, that makes sense. Alright, nice little boost we're going here. Alright, Shovel and Shield initiate. So, mini-sided mix-up here. Could easily be a cross. Could easily be a shield boomerang. Vega responds with a wild swing, no critical. It is merely a grasp, which will lose pretty hard to this sweep. Shovel and Shield deal 3.
Does get Vega away from the wall if they so choose.
Yep, interesting. They put him at range 2. While Claw's in play, that is almost certainly bad for them.
Did they take too much damage there? They
Uh,
took 8.
yes. That's okay.
incorrect.
Got it. Oh yeah, they mistakenly thought the Vega's ability applied to normals. Alright, so Vega choosing whether or not to spin that Force to sustain Claw. Almost certainly will, especially because he's now at range 2. Spins the block from Gage. Yep. Alright, well, Shield Boomerang is not currently being threatened.
It's true, but I feel like there's no reason you put Vega there if you don't have either Buckler Blow or Shield Gong or both.
Yes, those are definitely both being threatened. High Jump will put Vega back in the corner and build a Gage. Alright. Removes the threat of both of those moves in return for being back in range of Shield Boomerang. But at some point, it looks like Vega's just willing to eat a Shield Boomerang at some point and say, okay, that's one down. Basically forcing Shovel and Shield to habits or to trade down. Also, I said no critical earlier. That was a mistake. Claw is in play, so everything is critical. Shovel and Shield prepare. Defend. Improves the chances of Vega not being stunned, which is pretty important. What goes to it?
Oh.
Good old TTS. Yeah, I will admit, while TTS has many advantages, in real life I seldom have the problem with a card appearing to be somewhere it is not.
Or falling through the table, or the table next to yours cards magically appearing in the middle of yours.
This is true. That I think that has happened to me at least once in real life. Less magically and more abruptly and aerially, but only once. I'll just say that not everyone is good at shuffling.
That's a very great start and end to that story.
That's all that needs to be said. All right. We have a parry. What are we seeking out here? Pounce? That is pretty reasonable, actually. Pounce is a very scary card. All right. Looks like we have Scarlet Terror, Assault's Grasp, and Splendid Claw. Wow. That's pretty darn scary.
Mm-hmm.
So we're probably going to see a CC. Shovel and Shield Sleep draw for end of turn. There it is. 4 cards, drawing a total of 5. CC4, because that last was an Ultra.
Well, that's Splendid Claw down. I suppose the other Bloody High Claw is still live, which is a equally terrifying Ultra.
Yep, I'm actually surprised at dropping the Splendid Claw here. But it's fair. I mean, if Vega can draw into an EX or into a Pounce, then he'll have enough defenses to shrug off just about anything and be ready to hit back harder. This is very much a brawly, tanky Vega trying to sit in his corner, claim it for good.
I feel like there's a universe here where, as Shovel and Shield, you consider a block. The poor man's tech to clear these boosts. CC1, what are they looking for?
What in the world? CC1 is very strange. It's almost always inferior to just preparing and then discarding it into turn. Alright, parry comes out, hits Shield Boomerang, that's 1 down.
Yep.
Yeah, CC1 is a very strange play.
So what do you think the odds that the other one's already in hand?
Pretty high. Oh, pretty low
Maybe
now.
not.
My evaluation has changed abruptly because it is no longer being threatened. So it looks like Shovel and Shield are probably setting up a Shield Gong just to try to tank through one hit, and then reposition to get a hit on Vega after that boost goes away.
I mean, that's Shield Gong's especially useful because oh no, the only rolling Crystal Fast pushes actually. I take that back. I thought Pounce had a push on it, but that was my imagination.
Nope, it has a sweep effect on it. Also known as a knockdown.
So again, I'm very curious here. Like, you could also see a universe in which this Repel Leap gets played.
True.
But
Be very
apparently it's
expensive
just a
though.
strike.
Yep. Probably. There's any number of things because of that defense and the automatic crits. A world of hurt is being threatened here. It could be anything from, I believe the other assault is still live, just to waste a defensive option and give him another turn, to a pounce, which would have armor 3, guard, 7? Range 1 to 5 effective? Sheesh.
But only 7 power, which is important for breakpoint purposes.
That's true. That does not break focus, but it does break Shield Gong. And I think there is still a Sky High Claw live. Oh, it's a focus. It's a cross. A cross? Wow.
A cross.
Okay. That's surprising.
Wow.
Successful, though.
I mean...
Yeah, the focus
in my
whiffs.
opinion, brilliant.
Yep, the focus whiffs, draws a card, and forces Vega to spin a card saying that, yep, there it is. There's the known Scarlet Terror, too, dropping that. I'm surprised at that. That's a pretty valuable card. But sustaining the claw, which is of utmost importance right now.
So with that claw, there's a lot that Vega threatens. However, again, with that Scarlet Terror down, unless he plays the second one, a lot of them do get stopped by Buckler Blow.
Yeah, that was a really impressive crossplay. There were so many things that was unsafe against because it wouldn't stun anything, and the extra range due to the claw boost meant all of Vega's most terrifying threats still hit. So, I'm impressed.
Me too. It's one of those moments. You watch a lot of fighting games online. There are the moments where the commentators kind of look helplessly at each other and they say, "I got hit."
Yep. Just so. All right.
There was a mix-up. I got hit.
Yeah, moving Shield Knights back to center stage, giving him that mix-up threat of his closing options. I believe we still have.
I feel like I would have wanted to almost leave Shield Knight there, but.
So if not for Claw, I would agree. But Claw means things like Assault and Spike are threats here, and Shield Boomerang defuses those threats.
That is fair.
Granted, those are probably less threatening than Vega specials, all of which would cause him, all of which except for Pounce would cause him to go to range 1 and hit for, approximately 1 billion. Now it's card counting time. It sure is. Oh, man. Vega taking the time to assess what Shovel and Shield are threatening. Hey, Taxi. Vega is making hard life decisions. So, despite the massive resource advantage by Shovel and Shield, and a number of great plays on their part, I actually feel like the game is very, very even here. Oh, reading. Reading Grasp. At least one remains. Looks like it lands. Ho! That is gonna hit for 9. Ow. Okay, well, I would like to now amend my former statements to clarify that Vega has an advantage. Oh, man. Spins a force from hand to sustain claw. Also gives him 3 gauge, notably. Big hits. Barcelona needs to go to gauge at some point. Shovel and Shield strike from hands. Vega is going to be faster. Hits for 3, does not stun. Yep, and then gets hit back for 6. Ah, there's Barcelona. Looks like it had already moved. That was just TTS glitch on my side. Alright, Claw finally drops. Shovel and Shields now have ample momentum on their side, but are at an 8 life deficit, which is pretty substantial, especially against someone who has as much power as Vega. I think what Vega would want to throw here is a high jump, if he has it. He prepares. He's going to need to rebuild that hand, though. Second bloody high claw would also be great.
My microphone clicked.
Oh,
I was just noting.
Welcome back.
My apologies on that. I was even saying that it was a visual glitch there. But yeah, it's there's 2 cards left in that draw pile, which is very notable. And another reading right back here could, turn things significantly.
That's true. If Shovel and Shield can land tandem, that will even up life very abruptly, especially if there's an EX tandem on deck. I think we've seen 0 copies of tandem drop.
I agree. I do not think we have. Could also, I believe the other Charge Slash is still on the table, which is not a bad...
Uh-oh.
That could just be it.
That could be just straight up EX tandem with no reading attached. It is speed 6 if it is.
Yeah. We can't see the discards, but there could simply be no answers left to EX tandem.
Quite possible. Let's see. Best case for Vega would be something like an EX critical pounce, or just a block. Unless he has an EX cross, but I don't think he does, because we saw a cross out on turn 1, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
There we go.
So critical pounce would get broken. EX
Yes.
critical pounce would
Trade
very importantly. I think that would be the dream.
It would actually trade up, I think. 6 power over 1 armor deals 5. 8 power over 3 armor deals 4. Yeah, it would... Wait, no, 5. No, trade even then.
Yeah.
They're running the numbers, and it looks like... Focus, sweep... Shield Gong, and Tandem are the threats.
I mean, it's a pretty good mix-up, to be honest.
True, so it's either something very, very defensive, or it's bloody tandem attack. Vega does the math. They haven't mentioned tandem yet. Yeah, Gong, which is basically, fancy focus. And tandem. There it is. I mean, that's my call from the start. There's not much to do about that.
Well,
Wait,
let's
unless
see.
critical
That's
EX
critical pounce.
pounce.
So this is.
Oh my goodness, it actually is!
Wow.
Oh my goodness. This is so good. Alright, so that is going to be an 8 power tandem attack. 3 armor. Deals 5. 6 power pounce. 1 armor. Deals 5. Burns a card. Trading even against EX tandem attack. Oof.
I guess that was why they were willing to prep, because they knew that that EX was there.
I don't think they did. They only had 3 cards in hands. So they had prepped at 1. Sorry, if you mean Vega.
Yes.
Yes. Alright, rips out a shield gong and deals 5. Oh my goodness. That was amazing.
Gonna draw out. There is the other claw left, so they may.
Or they could wild swing and get an option select off of it. So, since, for viewers not as familiar with the game, oh, I think we see an exceed here. Or a CC, either way. But if you wild swing an ultra attack, you are not required to spin the gauge. You can choose to invalidate it. So if Vega, and it was the next card, if Vega had wild swung there, then revealed the ultra attack, Vega could choose to invalidate it after seeing the opponent's response. Basically, if you wild swing something, we're not going to force you to pay the cost, is the principle involved there. Alright, we have a CC going through that reshuffle. Vega still has 1 gauge so that he can crit if he needs to. Picks up cross, which is fairly safe against reading. I think Shovel and Shield do have 2 readings available, so that threat is live, but getting cross readings is generally not the end of the world. Like, at worst, you'll take 3 damage. Or trade. Amazing. Alright, so what do we got here? CC4. Alright. Yep, dropping the tandem from gauge, a couple cards from hands, getting a decent size reload.
That claw is getting boosted right now.
I would think so. I would expect so, and definitely getting rid of that cross from hands, because both readings are known, and even if cross is low risk, like, it's still a strike you don't want to have to lose. Oh, nope, that's just a CC. Alright. Refreshing those options. Okay. Alright, this time Jace remembered to pause to give Ashlyn time to check those. Yep. And has signaled the all clear. Shovel and Shield draw for end of turn. Alright, well, Vega's at range 1. He's not in the corner, but he's up a considerable amount of life. Boost mask.
Yeah, the mask.
Donning that equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And now threatening lethal with sweep, if he happens to have the other sweep.
Or Bloody High Claw.
Or, can't afford it. He spent some gauge on change cards. Yes. That looks like a back step. Getting out of dodge. Say at range 5, Shovel doesn't threaten anything, although Shield still does. So it looks like he just wants to make himself safe and threaten Vega with Shield Knight's attacks. Okay, moves to range 4, where he still has viable threats of his own. And there's Mask.
You regret that now, because here's the Claw.
Oh, sorry, Claw. Ugh, said it backwards. Yep, which means Vega is threatening with anything that hits range 2, and Buckler Blow does not make Shovel Knight safe against something like Pounce.
It would have to be the Pounce hitting the hand again after the reshuffle, but that's happened more often than not.
Yeah, I mean, Vega's drawn a decent number of cards here. Like, it's still only a fraction of the deck, but it's enough that it's not safe to bet against it. Oh, light. Okay, that gives Shovel Knight an edge in the boost war. I believe Vega dropped... Oh, we have a parry.
That is probably going to hit that other shield boomerang.
Most likely. Yep, there it is. Alright. One is still live, I believe, because one was in discard before reshuffle.
It is true, but that means one is gone.
One is gone forever. Okay, we have a strike. With +2 speed in play. This seems fairly likely to be a Buckrow blow, hoping for safety.
Wild swing.
It is shield gong into cross, which Vega will dodge and put him at the corner. It's actually really good for him, although it'll be expensive if he wants to keep those boosts in play. If I was the Vega player, I would probably drop Mask here. Seems reasonable.
And there you have it.
Yep. So Vega is now threatening a Flying Barcelona.
Thank you for covering that.
No problem. Yeah. For those not familiar, boosts drop before attacks when you're discarding stuff at the end of the strike. It matters for characters that care about discard order, or against characters that care about discard order. So, typically a pretty minor point, but it can matter. It is now Vega's turn, threatening Flying Barcelona. Jace using that shorthand for remembering that they've consumed their reshuffle by swapping the deck and discard positions. I've seen a number of players do this. I do this myself, actually. Alright, Vega initiates...
This is a mix-up, actually.
Wait, it is? Oh, it is! Yeah, it's Barcelona Rolling Crystal Flash. Yeah, because Barcelona loses to Shield Boomerang. Rolling Crystal Flash does not. I love that Vega has a freaking range 7 mix-up. With Claw in play.
Anyone should.
With Claw in play. Normally it's only a range 6 mix-up. Sheesh.
Part of me just wants to block here if I'm shuffling shield.
Oh, 100%.
Like,
100%.
This is terrifying.
Yeah. Like, either way, it's 5 or maybe 9 damage. Like, blocking is the play if they have a block. But if they don't have a block, well... life is hard.
Well, it's the Barcelona.
It's the block. Alright, well that's still 9 damage coming in, which is going to be a pretty big hit to Shovel and Shield's economy. Cool, block 9. Alright, they have 4 armor now. 6 armor. Deciding if they want to drop that gauge. 8 armor, and they are now no longer able to validate a Shield Boomerang. Taking 1 damage currently. Taking no damage. Alright.
End it all.
There it goes.
Goodness.
All that gauge is gone. Well, that tells me they do not have a Shield Boomerang in hands. Or they would want to keep that threat live. But what remains in their hands must be very valuable.
Or they have a discovery and are hoping to make it work.
Mm-hmm. Alright. Pretty rough position for Shovel and Shields. Turns out blocking 9 is pretty expensive. Shovel and Shield prep. Oh, that's all the ultras gone forever. Vega just spent the second copy of both of those ultras.
Well,
Interesting.
It's not the last copy of those boosts. I believe there's still a Sky High left for retrieve, but
oh, that's true. Yep, but yeah, jigging into
one gauge, they
lethal
may
threats.
just be saying they only need to be right once more.
I think you're right. They're probably going to kill in the next hit if they're successful. Cross into pounce. That is lethal. Yep. Cross hits for 1 after armor. Vega closes 2 and hits for 7. Good game. Vega takes it.
Wow.
GG. All right. Well, that was a violently entertaining altercation, I would say. Thank you for joining me. All right. Let me switch that back to the setup screen. Alright, thank you to everyone who viewed the stream and who watches this video later. This is a pools bout in Matchup Madness, largest Exceed tournament of all time, at least so far. Special thanks to TaxiGab for organizing it. If you're curious, wants to learn more about it, you can visit the Level 99 Games official organized play Discord server. And if you're interested in Exceed and want to try it, you can play it for free on Tabletop Simulator. This module that you watch people play on, I maintain for competitive play. Just search the Steam Workshop for Tabletop Simulator for Balanced Breakfast, or XFS Balanced Breakfast, and you should find a hit. Did I forget anything, Matt?
No, that's it.
Oh, and also thank you for co-casting with me.
Pleasure as always. This was quite the bout that swung very, very quickly. And we saw some very deliberate footsies play, and then we saw some big explosive damage, and it's really a great gamut of Exceed. And so I'm always happy to watch and offer a little bit of insight, hopefully. And it's always a pleasure.
All right, I'll see you around, friend.
Good night.
Bye.